Welcome to the Foxhole. I'm Nandor Fox Shaffer, and in today's episode of The Art of Writing Comics, we're going to be going through Superman's Secret Identity, written by Kurt Busiek and illustrated by Stuart Immonen. Writers, pay attention to this one. I think you're really going to love this episode. Here we go. Do stories inspire your stories? How do you come up with your comic book ideas? How do you come up with your comic book series, your stories themselves, and where do they come from? Whenever you're trying to start something new, where do you go? Think about other stories that you've written, maybe past ones, of course, and where did you get those ideas? The reason why I'm asking those questions is that's what Kurt Busiek was facing when he was writing Superman's Secret Identity. His inspiration for this story here, which is absolutely incredible, one of the best Superman stories I've ever read. He was inspired by a classic Superman story, and we'll see that here in his introduction, but I think it's important when we're thinking about starting something new or we want to write something new, how to not copy necessarily, other stories, but take what we love about our favorite characters and plots and make them our own. And that's something Kurt Busiek did here with a character like Superman and made it something completely different and original, even though it was taken from an older comic. And we'll see that here. So if you're not familiar with Superman's Secret Identity, this is written by Kurt Busiek, the artist, colorist, the covers, Stuart Immonen. And this is a story that looks at a real boy, a real kid, real guy named Clark Kent, who's bullied for his name being Clark Kent. Superheroes don't exist in this world. And somehow he gets Superman's abilities. And isn't that neat? I mean, neat's an understatement, but it sounds like an impossible type of story to tell. How would that make sense? How would you write something like that? So it just goes to show when you're faced with maybe what you think is an impossible story, I for one would imagine, I don't know how I would write something like that. It can be done, and Kurt Busiek does that with Superman's Secret Identity. This was a series that I believe originally was published in 2004 or early 2000s at least. And Kurt Busiek, he's done Astro City. He's written maybe every major Marvel and DC character. He's probably most known for working with Alex Ross on Marvels. And he's really become one of my favorite writers in the last couple years, really being introduced to his work and discovering it for the first time. And I actually read, there's another series called Batman Creature of the Night that is basically the Batman version of Superman's Secret Identity. And I read that first, and then I was hunting this down for so long. I remember it was at a bookstore in my area, and I didn't get it at the time. And then when I wanted to get it, of course, it wasn't there. And I would check back on a weekly basis every other week, looking for it. And I finally just got this from eBay for a really good price in a really good condition too. And this was the latest re-release of it, or reissue of it. Has the new DC label, their most recent one. So I was just really happy to finally sit down with this and read it. And again, this is a writer's comic just as much as it is an artist's comic. And so this is the introduction by Kurt Busiek here. And he says that he read a book called DC Comics Presents. It was a part of the Crisis on Infinite Earths during that whole event. And it was a story of the Superboy of Earth Prime, the young Clark Kent of one of DC's alternate Earths, the one that is supposed to be the real world with no superheroes or aliens or monsters. In this world, the DC heroes were all known as comic book characters. And young Clark, growing up in Maine or New Hampshire, I confess I don't recall the details, I haven't read the issue in some years, has lived his whole life with the taunts of his schoolmates for having the same name as a famous superhero. But then young Clark discovers he has Superman's powers too, and the sense of freedom of release that this gave him was a wonderful thing. As a kid, so he read this series as a kid, and he wanted to write it when he was reading it. He loved the concept, but it was just something that was there as kind of like a one shot or few issues that was just to kind of be a filler for that anthology series. And so it was like 15 years later, he was still thinking about this. And that's something else I wanted to mention is whenever you have story ideas, and I know this is for, of course, Superman, but even if it's just one of your own ideas that no one knows about a character, and maybe you just don't feel like it's the right time to write about it, save it and come back to it later. And you might have something completely new and fresh to say. And maybe you're ready now to tell that story. And I mean, he was thinking about this for years and years, for, almost 2 decades. And so he finally got to write it, and it took on its own, it took on a whole new identity than he thought it was going to. So that just goes to show you have to let the stories tell you how to write them. And that's really important as a writer to understand that. And so this is a great introduction. I love, read interviews, read introductions, read afterwards, peer into the mind of creators and see how they came up with things, because that'll help you. That will really help you be a better writer and better creator. So we're going to go through this entire graphic novel. And again, like my other graphic novel videos, we're not going to spend too much time on every little detail. Just talk about things I really enjoyed about it and highlight things that I think will help us as writers to be better writers, and things we can apply to our own writing and our own comics. I love this cover here. This is the cover for the main collection, but he's kind of walking, but he's actually floating above. It's just very simple, but really cool. And I really love how Stuart Immonen draws this book. Also, I want to talk about titling an issue or your comic. If you want it to have a title, make it clever, make it like interesting and different, and use a quote from the book or do something that you think represents what the story is about. This issue is called "The Thing Is, I Like Things Quiet," and I believe that's something that the main character says here in the story in this issue. So we open up, it's 1990. We see this old Superman panel or page, from old Superman comic. Not a bird, not a plane, Superman. Strange visitor from another planet changes the course of mighty rivers, bends steel in his bare hands, disguised as mild manner, blah, 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 blah. Clark, I can so relate. So he really doesn't like being affiliated with Superman and kind of hates his parents for, doing this to him, naming him Clark Kent. But soon that changes, and we'll see that through the course of this story. Stuart Immonen's work here is some of his best, maybe his best that he's ever done. It looks painted. It has such a just a stunning quality and clarity to it, and it's a unique style, and I love how I believe what he did is he didn't ink his own work. He penciled it and then colored over it. So that's pretty amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how this went. So I want to talk about the lettering for this entire book. And when I say this is a writer's comic, comic for writers, Clark Kent, the main character, this kid here, he's narrating this entire story, and we really see everything through his eyes. This is a character-driven story. So if you want to write better characters, read this book. If you want to know how to write narration, character narration, and like inner dialogue, narration dialogue, all that stuff, read this book. Also, when it comes to the lettering, he's writing this on a typewriter, like in the story in this comic, and that's how the lettering is done. It looks like a typewriter, the font and the way it's cut out. If you're writing about a character, especially a writer or a journal or something, think of ways you can make the lettering unique and to enhance your story. It doesn't just have to be boxes. It doesn't just have to be black on white. Color, font, and the style of the boxes and how it's cut up or laid out. Man, it's so important. It's so important, and you can't miss that opportunity to use that and enhance your story and make it feel even more a part of the comic. You use the comic for what it has to offer and use the story for what it has to offer. So that's something that is done here in this series. And this was only 4 issues, but they're like oversized issues. And that's something that Batman Creature of the Night did as well. So it's cool. And this came out early 2000s. Creature of the Night just came out, I believe, in 2018, 2019. So Kurt Busiek didn't take on Batman for a while. This is just really luscious, gorgeous art by Stuart Immonen. Here, this is when Clark realizes he's flying, and he's actually in a sleeping bag, which kind of mimics the idea of a red cape. What a beautiful two-page splash by Stuart Immonen. So yeah, he's learning about his abilities. This is very new and unique to him. This feels very grounded superhero storytelling, and just the narration and what Kurt Busiek does and how he evolves his character throughout is just so great. Here he's about to save these people. This town has been flooded. He's going to go save them. I just love this. It's so great. People say you can't, Superman's not a really fun character. He's just so OP and boring. And I know this isn't like the Superman, but you can, Superman stands for so many different things and can be used in so many different ways. And this makes me appreciate the character even more and how awesome of a character he is and just how inspiring he is. In this issue, he thinks about being being exposed, talking to a reporter. And so we're seeing that interaction here. It's revealing he can fly. But he realizes she's actually not telling the truth about really the kind of transparency and that he thought. And so he really struggles with throughout this book, worried about the safety of his family and of himself and what people will think of him. This is a great moment. It's I believe Halloween, and he dresses up as Superman. And his parents were like, "I thought you hated this," and he's like, "Oh, And so yeah, he goes to this carnival, and there's this explosion. I love these 2-page splash pages throughout this entire 4-issue series. Really gorgeous stuff, and it just, man, beautiful. And again, Kurt Busiek, even though he writes a lot and he has a lot of dialogue and narration, he lets the art speak when it needs to. So here he's going to save friends he knows, people from school. I love this, and I knew it. This was it. This was my big moment. And he's like saving this girl he knows from school. He's being a superhero, even though he's not Superman. And it's such a great angle to look at for the character and how Superman can inspire the everyday person. And here he actually fakes that he's not as strong, like he can't hold it up, because he doesn't want to be seen. He doesn't want to be noticed as having these abilities. He's flying over the world here. I love this. I had a lot of questions and I didn't get any answers, but I've got my whole life to figure them out, and it'll be a private life, which is good. If I'd gone public, the thing is, I like things quiet. There we go. I like to get away and think and sort things out for myself by myself. I don't like noise and crowds and chaos. If I'd gone public, I'd have all the noise and crowds and chaos in the world, and they'd never stop. So I think I like keeping things quiet more than I'd have liked the fame and attention and the fancy cars and even piles of money. Never mind government guys trying to dissect me, if they even would. And I think mom and dad would understand about the dream house. He wanted to do these things for his family and, use his abilities in the public eye for good, but it's not the person he is and not what he wants to do. So I feel like I turned a corner into a new day, a new something, dodged a bullet, however you want to put it. And whatever's coming, whatever happens next, for the first time since I can remember, I think I'm looking forward to it. Just beautiful. It's so good writing and narration. And you really relate to this character on so many levels, even though he has the powers of Superman. And then here we get some people that are hunting him down, some government officials and so forth. We go to chapter 2 here. Secret shared is a secret exposed. And I wonder, there's some other panels and some other classic images, and I wonder if they're from Superman comics, older Superman comics, classic books. I'm not sure, and I don't know if this is Stuart and Mona doing this, or if this is actually taken from original Superman comics. But that'd be really cool if it was. Either way, they capture the different eras of Superman in such a great, authentic way, and I love how they do this. This was one of my favorite opening pages in this story. I had an unusual day today. I met a girl. And here he meets someone whose name is actually Lois. And that's really cool. There's all these different kind of Easter eggs and things about this story that has to do with real Superman lore and history and continuity. Also, this is a story not about fighting supervillains. I mean, there's some bombastic scenes and imagery, but he doesn't fight a supervillain throughout this entire series. So if you're writing a comic or you're working on a story and you're thinking, I don't really know if this will work as a comic. I mean, don't they just want like big battles and, superheroes flexing and just doing their thing and being heroic and, fighting big bad guys and monsters and robots and all this stuff? No. Comics, you can do anything with the medium. And even though this is a Superman story, it's more of a human drama, more of a coming of age, character development, growth story. And reading it, it reminded me of Seasons. And I hadn't read this before I wrote Seasons, my own comic. But it reminds me a lot of it. And I kind of wish I would have read it before, because I think it would have made my writing even better. But reading it, it just makes me go, because, I was worried. I was like, Seasons, even though it's more of a superhero type of story and it has great action and spectacle, it's very much a human story. And in my other book, Lifeline, it's a drama. It just looks at a boy growing up to an elderly man through the eyes of different people. And so something that I feel like Kurt Busiek does really well, and I want to read more of his writing to even get better myself. And so I think if you're one of those writers, you don't have to write a novel. You can use comics to tell your story. It's not all about the art. It's about the story. Art's incredibly important, big deal. If you don't have a good artist, your comic's probably not going to get in the hands of a lot of people or get a lot of interest, but still, the kind of story you're telling, comics can be used for anything. So yeah, he's introduced to Lois and they meet. And I love this line here. I mentioned before how much I'm liking Manhattan, especially at night. So he's like in the real metropolis, So just let me add this. It's way, way better when you're sharing it with someone. She's working for an interior designer. She likes it a lot. She's from San Francisco. Went to Carleton College in Minnesota. She loves Joel Carrow's books too. And she knows Tevis. She's even read The Queen's Gambit, which is pretty funny because that's like a new Netflix series, that just came out. This came out in like early 2000s. And I remember reading this and I was like, Queen's Gambit? That's weird. She wants to go around the world in a balloon someday. Her nose wrinkles up when she laughs and she smiles. She smiles like life's a joke and you're in on it with her. If I sound smitten, don't read too much into it. He flies away after leaving her. It's just because I am. Okay, so I want to talk about this. Comics are all about showing and not telling, right? Well, what's the deal with that? Like, he's talking about her expressions and everything she does. And we're not seeing that. And I really am an advocate of, I believe comics are show, not telling, but you got to break those rules sometimes. I mean, this works so perfectly well. And if you're a good enough writer and you can manage it, you don't have to always show. You can tell and you can do it right and you can do it well. And so I think it's a great guideline and, something that's really important to, of course, always have on your mind when you're writing and you really want the art to speak. But again, her nose wrinkles up when she laughs and she smiles. She smiles like life's a joke and you're in on it with her. I mean, you can't show that. Not really. I mean, they could have showed her smile, but I love the way this is done. This is perfect. Absolutely perfect. And this just here, like, don't read too much into it. Sounds like I'm smitten. It's just because I am. Like, this is a romantic issue. If you want to learn how to write, character relationships and romance, look at Superman Secret Identity issue 2. Great book for that. And he's really struggling with thinking about, telling her about his identity, his powers. So there's some of that too, like classic superhero storytelling. Here, he actually gets taken captive, and these people are trying to, these scientists are trying to figure out how he got his abilities, and they're experimenting on him. And I love this. There are these little interjections or interludes here where it shows classic Superman comic panels, and they have these experiments, and we have Brainiac, and we show Lex Luthor, and it's just really neat. And what a way to embrace the character and show off the character. And I love Stuart Imonen's work here. It's incredible. It's like he's looking through. It's very muddy, and he's disoriented, and then he breaks out. And this is all silent. And again, Kurt Busiek, he lets the art speak. And even though he could have written whatever he wanted to, and it would have been amazing, this is a horrifying moment, and the art just does the job. And sometimes, when you get art back, I think I've talked about this before. Maybe you've had dialogue on it before, but you get it back and you're like, that just slow it down. Maybe that's what happened here. I don't know, but I know if I were to see this, I'd be like, yeah, like he's not even like having him yell, like we just see it here. And that sometimes is more powerful than writing like, having all the exclamation marks and stuff and capital letters, and just having it be so kind of, that could kind of make it cheesy. This right here is really sad and pretty horrifying. And he sees like baby legs, like they've been experimenting on kids. And so, yeah, he's really angry, and he takes it out on them. And it's just gorgeous, just amazing. He's like, oh God. It's, he didn't know he was going to get into that. And he says, I haven't left my apartment for 4 days. Man, I made an excuse at work. They got me on Friday, and I got out on Monday. So I just had one day to explain. Told them my father was ill. What did they mean? Strongest manifestation to date. There have been 12 others. Meteor strikes. Those other people, those corpses, were they like me? Did the government kill them? Did they kill those babies? They brought me down, knocked me cold. I don't think that would have worked on Superman, but it worked on me. And they're still out there, still looking, still after me. Man, this is great writing. It's really incredible stuff. I don't want to read the entire issue, read the entire story to you guys, but it's kind of pointing out what I think are just really great moments, and really just highlighting the story. He goes out space and he just yells. And again, there's no lettering here, no yell or anything. It's just the art. What do they want from me? What do they want? To kill me, control me, clone me? They have my fingerprints, retinal scans, and more I can't even imagine. I've been safe so far, but they could turn up at my door any time. I used to like having a secret. I loved it, but now I've never felt so alone. No one to talk to share my fear with. They took it all away, my privacy, peace of mind, my writing. I can't tell her. Telling her could expose me, expose her. It doesn't make sense. And it's not like I haven't dated before. It's not like I told them and that was fine. They didn't last, but then how many relationships last? So he actually tells her, though, that it's worth it, sharing his secret with her. He tells her he'd do anything, anything for her. And says, we're in this together. Chapter 3. They already know I exist, so as long as I don't lead them home, I figure, what's the harm? See some family here. It's funny how things change. I love those. I love these little like one sentence introductory lines, with a splash page. And it's just, there's warmth to it. There's heart to it. There's so much to this story. This is something that is really interesting. He gets a card from Lois, and it says, nice work in Ecuador. We'll see you soon. Love, Lois. And I didn't catch this, and it says Superman family. It says, we'll see you soon. And he doesn't catch this either. So it was really cool because as I was reading this, I'm like, oh, this is, just a card that was nice or whatever. And then we'll come back to that, but just take note of that. So yeah, he's been, being Superman, or as much as he can be, while still keeping his identity secret. She gets home. They're having a time of their life here. Really great relationship writing. And she's, let's see, I think that actually, oh yeah, right here. That's when she tells him about the card, and it says, birthday, we Superman family. He's like, what? He's like, you mean? And then we show him like excited, like he's going to be a dad, like she's pregnant. They're going to have a family. But it's also, it's scary, like for him, because he wants to protect his family and protect Lois. And, this could have been done so cheesily. His name's Clark Kent. He made someone named Lois, but it's not. It's really remarkable. And he's worried about the government. He's worried about his kids, and it says there were babies, there, and he's worried about his newborns. How can I bring children into this world, the danger they face, the things that could happen to them? Every father goes through that, right? I mean, you're always worried how things are going to end up for your kids. But can't protect them, can't keep them safe. I feel like the worst, most thoughtless, most incompetent person on the planet. Have we ever felt like that? How could I be so stupid? How could I have not thought this through? I can't be a father. I feel lost, alone, alien. So, getting to the heart of Superman here. And that's, like I said, I love superhero stories that do that. But am I going to be a father, smart or stupid, dangerous or safe? It's happening, and that's not going to change. And I'm not alone. I have to keep reminding myself of that. I'm not lost. I don't have to figure this out myself. I'm not alone. He keeps telling himself that. And he's struggling with that, Here he speaks with government officials. I think he's running, but he's not. They misunderstand the situation. This is really, really powerful scene here. He feels the baby on her stomach, and we get a flashback of the Superman family, and I don't know if this is again from an old comic or not. It's yeah. And it's he's feeling for Superboy there. I don't know what this is from, but there's something really powerful about this sequence here. And it really, I don't know how to explain it, but every time I see it, it affects me emotionally. It says, I'm not going to leave it at this. I can't leave it at this. I have to try again. Make them hear me. Make them think. He wants to do what's right and not have his family be threatened. It's a great scene here. The Washington Monument. So they make a truce, sort of, he'll help them out with the government with certain situations if, they won't ask too many questions, get on his case. And he's thinking about writing again. So, and he's also he's going to be having twins. Not just, one kid, but a couple. And she's going into labor, but he has to be Superman. He gets a call to help take on this situation, but Lois is giving birth, and he it's it's sad because he's missing the birth of his kids to be a hero. Chapter 4, tomorrow. The world is changing, but the world always changes. It's kind of neat, little animated Superman. Just once it'd be nice to escape it, but no, that'd be too much to ask, wouldn't it? This is really cool. This is like during the new year. I actually read this this past January during the new year, so it was really timely for me as I was reading it. And I love when stories do that. I didn't know that was going to happen, but it just happened. He looks out at the world, peace on earth, goodwill toward man, for the moment. In this story, he's getting older. His daughters are grown. He's starting to notice that his powers are kind of waning. They're not at their peak level like they used to be. And he's getting older, and there's this really beautiful scene right here. I find myself watching sunsets a lot. And yeah, I mean, that says all it needs to say, like the sun powers Superman. That imagery of the sun setting is like the day ending, life ending. He's on the other side of, nearing. He's getting older, nearing becoming elderly, and he's faced with looking back on his life, and so and it all says that in just one page or 2 pages and one little snippet of writing. And sometimes that's all it takes. And as a writer, you have to be able to decipher when that kind of scene has to be that way and how you want to write it. And sometimes it just takes one line. I swear, just one line, and that's all you need. He's on the moon here. I love this perspective. He's standing this way, and he's looking at the earth. Thank you guys so much for going through this entire book with me. Here, this is Tornado. He's, their daughters don't know, their twins don't know that he's Superman. He's thinking about telling them. But then he notices something in this situation here where he had help. He sees that he had help, and you could hear laughter, delighted laughter. And maybe I was just imagining it, but it sounded familiar. It sounded like young women, 2 of them. And he's like, oh crap, my daughters are hiding a secret from me. And the cool thing is they don't decide to tell them. They wait for their daughters to say anything. They don't want to confront them, and they're letting their kids grow up. So again, this is a very human story. This isn't just about being Superman, but it is about being Superman. And here they start to work together, and it's a really great, beautiful scene. He can't do this by himself, and he gets help. And it's really cool. They're flying together as horses are running in this mountains and fields, and he's really older. His typewriter, he's retired his typewriter and he's writing on a real computer. Things have changed so much. He's a lot older. He has grandkids now. This is a really amazing. I love how we see different kind of like eras of Superman through the comics, from like the golden age to like the animated series and to modern. That's something that, again, put a lot of thought and care into this book, and really shows. He says, I find myself watching a lot of sunsets. Again, he says that the world is changing, but the world always changes. It changes around us. It changes us. We can't stop it. And sunsets are beautiful, stately, graceful, a slow, majestic inevitability. Beautiful. And their endings. There's no getting away from that. Their endings, all right. I've had a good life. So he's contemplating that, and something he's been thinking about for a long time. And he sees how the sun is rising in a different part of the earth. It all starts all over again. Who knows? Maybe there's a book in it. So yeah, I've really said all that I can say about this story. And, we've gone through this entire thing. And again, thank you for following this with me. If you sat through this whole video, this really is a great story. And not only superhero story, Superman story, but story about being a dad, being a grown man, being a man, being a husband. And so, yeah, really a lot to ponder and a lot to think about with this story. I'd love to look at Batman Creature of the Night. It's different than this for sure, even though it's in the same vein. So be on the lookout for that. Hope you guys like this video. Again, it was another longer one. Please like it. Please comment and tell me what you think. Please tell me how you're enjoying this series, The Art of Writing Comics. It's a pleasure looking at these amazing books and talking about the best written comics from the past and present. It's such a joy and a pleasure, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.